Hey, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Thriving Thoughts. I'm your host, Dr. Sherri. I want to share this truth with you today. Everything someone says or does tells you who they are, not who you are. So, you guys know my primary audience is women, but I also work with men. But being a woman myself and having the mind of a woman and having had the privilege to work with so many beautiful women, I know this is a frequent problem, that we don't believe that what other people say and do towards us is about them. We actually believe it's about us. And the problem with that is that we then use that as a barometer to measure our value and our worth. So think about this from a significant other relationship. If your significant other does or doesn't text you during the day, if they do text you, oh, I matter. If they don't text you, oh, I don't matter. They have other fish to fry. They're too busy for me. What if a text is a simple text, or lack of a text is a simple lack of a text? So here's the first application of that truth, that it might not have anything to do with you. See, we tend to be egotistical creatures, and we think that things that people say and do that are close to us, we think that it's about us. I actually remember feeling that way in my relationship, and it's one of the breakthroughs that I had from my book, Breakup Breakthroughs, was that the needle of my worth cannot move based on what somebody does or doesn't do. More accurately, you guys, it's not even based on what somebody does or doesn't do or says or doesn't say. It's based on your interpretation of that, okay? Everything that happens up here in the thought world, the reason that we attribute others' behavior and words as being about us, as defining our worth, is because we interpret it through that lens. What if we interpreted it through a much simpler lens? A lens that actually serves as a shield. And it's a truth shield. This is not a delusional shield, right? This is even in reference to an encounter with a stranger. Say you're on the road and somebody cuts you off on the road, right? Or they give you an expletive middle finger, right? That's never happened to you. It's happened to me a few times, and I'm like, I wasn't doing anything. But guess what we do? We're like, we get mad, we get indignant, we get offended, we take it personal, as if that person knows who we are, knows all about us, has judged us by passing us in that car, and suddenly we're just chopped liver. Suddenly we're just diminished to dirt. We're degraded, right? Because they gave us the middle finger. It must be about us. And then we, oh, you don't know me, I'm going to come after you. Or then we get mad and we let it steal our joy for the rest of the day. Guess what? That person's impulsive, agitated, angry behavior has nothing to do with you. And it's not even about this adage of giving somebody grace. You don't know what they're living through. You don't know what story they're living through. I really don't care what story they're living through. And here's why. Because every time you decide to respond or behave in a certain way, what that does is it tells you something about yourself. So now we're going to flip this on its head, right? So I just said other things that other people say to you or do to you or don't say or don't do that you expect them. This all goes back to expectations. Somebody should have never said that to me, or they should have never treated me that way. Or we get so indignant, right? And so offended and gasp, but they shouldn't have done that to me, right? Well, guess what? It's not about you. And similarly, it is about you if you're the one saying something or doing something, right? So you guys know I always speak truth on this podcast, and it always comes from a place of personal growth, a place of personal thriving. So whatever I choose to say or do, let's say somebody quote unquote makes me mad. You guys know that's not a possibility. What if somebody makes me mad? They do something and I get upset. My response is not excused because of what they did. My response is my responsibility. So my response or lack thereof, my words or lack thereof, they are my responsibility. And they reflect who I am, not what that other person did. Right? They reflect who I am. James Allen said, circumstances do not make the man, they reveal him. This is so true, you guys. And here's what I want to call you to task on today. Here's how I want you to apply this thriving thought truth. That when you are faced with a situation and you feel like an arrow has penetrated your heart, that is your opportunity not to take that personally, not to make that all about you, not to get offended and therefore then blame or lash out at the person who threw that arrow at you. It's not an opportunity to do that, but it is an opportunity to explore and learn about your response. Why am I offended? Why am I hurt? You guys have heard me talk about this before. This is just a different form of talking about it. We just skip over opportunities to thrive when we choose to take something personally, make it about us, and then further let it define our worth and our value. Be liberated today, dear sisters and dear brothers. Your worth and your value don't move because somebody says something bad to you or somebody says something good to you. That's a created person, okay? It's absurd to let another created person determine your value as also the created. Here's the second truth and the second opportunity for you to thrive based on this thriving thought. Whatever you say or do is not excused or provoked by whatever somebody else says or does. That speaks to who you are, not to who somebody else is. So that's another opportunity to thrive. It's another opportunity to take stock. What is coming out of me? What am I saying? How am I responding? What is my instinctual response? Is it to lash out? Is it to lash in, right? Depression, anxiety. Is it to lash out? Anger, agitation, irritation, frustration. What's your tendency? Because however you respond is not because that other person did what they did or said what they said. It's because there is something in you that is coming out that needs to be dealt with. So if you don't like how you feel when you're responding in an agitated or frustrated state, if you don't like how you feel when you're responding in a depressive or anxious way, you have an opportunity to grow through that, literally to thrive through that. And hey, I do have a couple of open coaching spots available. If you'd like to learn more about how to do that, all you need to do is reach out to me through my email or through my direct messages on social media. All those links are in the show notes. And I ask that you do a couple of things with this message today. One, take some time reflecting. Take some time with an old school pen and a notebook. I like legal pads because I can just flip the pages. Take some time and reflect. How do I respond? When do I blame my response or my feelings on other people? How can I use that to learn more about me and to learn more about how I tend to respond and how I want to respond instead? Am I showing up in the way that shows people who I want to see? Or am I showing up in a way that shows them who I don't want to see? And remember that your words and your deeds don't have the power to change somebody else, but they do have the power to change you. Similarly, somebody else's words or actions don't have the power to change you unless you give it. They only have the power to change that person. Lean into that thriving thought today, my friends. Nothing somebody says or does shows you who you are. It shows you who they are. Please text THRIVE to 540-369-2139 if you'd like to be a part of my Thriving Thoughts texting community. I'd love to have you there and engage with you. Another call again if you're an Apple Podcast user to rate this show 5 stars. And hey, why don't you take a few minutes and just give me a 2 or 3 line review about the show, why you listen, and share this episode, share this podcast, share this opportunity with others. Look, there's too many of us walking around thinking that pain is not supposed to be a part of life, and pain is inherent in thriving. If you want to thrive and stop striving, that's what it takes. I know what I sell isn't easy. It's not easy to swallow. It's not supposed to be. Nothing good comes without work. Nothing good comes without adversity or pain. All right, my friends, we'll see you right back here on Monday with another interview for the next episode of Thriving Thoughts with Dr. Sherri. Please remember, until then, to speak truth over the lies and you will thrive in any and every circumstance.